Hello and welcome to the Christmas edition of the Radio 6 podcast. I'm Chambourine, joined by GoluMolu as always, and we have a couple of things to discuss before Christmas. I've got my Christmas hat on for those of you that aren't watching or just listening. I've got a Grinch hat on. Golu has his Christmas jumper. We are repping the merchandise for Christmas, and of course at the time of recording, 6 days away from Christmas. So just in case you listen to this in the future and you're wondering why we're talking about it, but that's why. But we are going to be talking about essentially our Siege Christmas list. That's it. Straightforward, nothing too crazy, and what we want from, I guess, Ubisoft, from Blast, from Siege for Christmas. This is what we want to talk about, isn't it, Ben?
It is indeed, and I think the plan's just to go back and forth with sharing the things that we've written down and sent off to the North Pole to Father Ubisoft this Christmas season. And you know what? I think we'll kick it off with a completely lovely, wholesome one.
Yeah.
Clash Elite skin. The first thing I want for Christmas is the Clash Elite skin. We've been waiting on this one for a while, Ubisoft. Alibi, obviously, we've seen some potential for a potential Alibi skin in the new year. And Maestro, obviously, also has not got one yet. But other than those two, Clash is the only other Year 3 operator missing the Elite skin. And I want my Clash Elite skin. I would love a little Star Wars overlap. If I can be really bold, I just want an Emperor Palpatine Clash really, really badly. But you know what? I'll take whatever I can get at this point. Just give me that Clash Elite skin.
I love it. I wasn't expecting that. That. I went for more kind of like backbone big changes. I wasn't expecting the Clash Elite. I suppose that.
That's the most important thing from this whole thing. Is just give me that Clash Elite.
That's why you came up with this.
That's all I want for Christmas.
You're like, I want to do the Christmas.
That's literally the only reason we've come up with this. With this entire episode is just so I can get the idea put out there that Clash is still missing an Elite skin.
Obviously, for those of you that don't play ranked with GoluMolu, it plays a lot of shields, so there's
Clash Enjoyer.
Yes, very much Clash Enjoyer. Always good to have one. Always hate to play against them, but it's what it is. We love it, and I respect it. I respect the request.
Gotta get the shilling in there.
Yeah, I respect that. I don't actually think there's anyone that I would overly want one for. I guess an actual kilt one for Sledge. Okay, like he has one with some turns, but an actual kilt would be nice.
That'd be cool.
Of course, that would be. Of course, Scottish. If you can't tell by the accent, guys. But yeah,
homage to the heritage.
I like that. I like that idea. I like that. It's very in the spirit of the Christmas list.
It is.
Whereas mine's again, we're a bit more crazy. I guess.
Well, what's your first item on the Christmas list then, Ezra?
My first one is a campaign for Siege.
Ooh.
A full-on campaign, or I have written /raids. So similar to what Call of Duty have, and I say this very, very riskily, I guess, in comparison, like actually using something from Call of Duty, because I know that they're not the greatest when it comes to
outrageous.
A little bit shade to Call of Duty, but hey ho. But the raids idea. So again, their execution wasn't that great, but like seasonally, they did anyway for MW2, where they had they would each season have a new raid that had like a kind of story aspect to it, and you kind of work your way through it with your kind of teammates and stuff, which I think is what Siege is missing. Being fully just PvP, it's kind of difficult to kind of make that connection for a lot of people that are like into the lore. The lore is really deep, and I encourage people to always look into it. Creates like Kudos, and this comes to mind, and Titanium Rollo, that always go into the actual deep lore aspects of it. But that's always feels like a kind of special interest. Always feels like kind of people are just they're just interested because they love Siege, but we don't actually get we get like a couple of cinematics. We don't get like an interactive campaign each season, which would be nice. I feel like that would be great to have. Each season we have new, and it would be function as new content, of course, because we're always looking for new content. So I feel like that's I feel like that's up there for me. I love it. I love a good campaign.
Yeah, we had obviously the Outbreak events, which were great, and then they tried to make Extraction, which is still around. And I heard the feedback I got from Extraction was it's kind of fun if you're playing in a 4, and you're playing with your mates, but it doesn't have that sort of long-lasting impact that you kind of wanted it to. And whereas Chimera was very much or the Outbreak event was very much you play this a couple times, you enjoy it, you have fun with it, and then we're going to take it away. So it could be cool to see to see a more long-term thing.
Yeah.
It would be a massive thing for Ubisoft to commit to. I think that's probably why they haven't, right? Because I think it would
Probably.
require like its whole own little team to sort of organize.
Yeah.
But it would be cool to get some more Outbreak styled, maybe not that extensive, but
Yeah.
styled events.
I'm just thinking in the vein, like this is why I kind of mentioned the raids aspect, just because you could do like one singular campaign each year. You could do that, which would be
Yeah.
fine as well. Or you could do like each season you get like episodic kind of things from it, and instead of having us watching the cinematics for what actually happens in the kind of Siege universe, if you want to call it
Oh
that,
yeah.
you actually play through it and you have that kind of tangible link to it. And I think it would make it a bit better for the actual like link to people in the operator, because a lot of people kind of look at they just kind of look at the operator and they're just like they don't appreciate the kind of the effort and the design into it, things, even like simple things like the way the operators kind of carry themselves, the way they're designed, their voice lines, like all of that does feed into the lore. And I feel like it would just be a good way to bridge the gap between people that don't really kind of respect that as much. And also for me it's leaning into the new content aspect, because I think we're also getting to the point where like oversaturation of operators is a very real thing, and I feel like there comes a point at which you kind of have to slow down a bit, even more than maybe one each season. Maybe there's maybe a conversation for one or two a year, and different types of content coming through instead. Because again, how many I know they're aiming for 100 operators eventually, but I feel like there's other avenues that they could go for content, and that's one of my suggestions.
Fair. Yeah, it is interesting, especially on like the idea of slowing down past one operator a season. I think it definitely could work. The difficulty is that it would take time for the player base to get on board. And we saw that happen with the shift from 2 to 1 a season, right? And I think now everyone can agree, like, wow, can you imagine if we were still getting 2 every single season? Like, it would be insane. Effectively, like, where we're at now would still have been, like, what, a year ago? Because you would have had Zero and Aruni. You would then have had Flores and Thorn.
Yep.
You'd have had, what would have been, Crystal Guard was Osa and Azami, and just still going. That's 3 seasons to Azami. So yeah, it would have been nuts to still be going at that pace. I think there is an argument to slow down further, especially if it means that we're going to get more time to get these operators under control, which leads nicely into my second thing on my wish list, my Christmas list from Ubisoft, which is defender balancing. I would like to see Azami, Solis, Fenrir, and Tuberam all adjusted. But the main thing I want for the item number 2 is a change in philosophy for what a new defender operator has to do.
Okay.
I think we've seen so many defenders that have come in and made such a massive splash immediately. And that's very different to the design philosophy behind the attackers. The attackers always come in with a niche tool or a cool toy to play around with that we as the community have to find what to do with it or where it fits in. But the defenders always come in as just, this is universally always going to be amazing. And I'd like to see the defenders now start to lean into that style of the way that attackers are brought in, especially when you're looking back at like the idea of these new operators isn't to like they're supposed to bring a change to the game, obviously, and you'd want that sort of refresh every season. But I don't want it to change what we know Siege to be every single season, where it's we see such these massively dramatic shifts all the time. You just have to play the new thing or you have to ban the new thing. And I just think for especially going forwards, not needing to necessarily have access to the new defender every season would be brilliant, because you haven't had to need the new attacker every single season. But if you don't have Tuberam early and no one on your team has Tuberam early and the enemy team does, you're kind of screwed out of a win effectively, right? Like if you're playing a map that requires a breach, you're playing Oregon, Clubhouse, Nighthaven, consulate on basement, for example, like becomes very hard to keep up, and that power creep for the defense is starting to get to me a little bit.
I mean, to be fair, that's also my second on my list as well, which is a defender balancing as well. Same thing, exactly, like for like what you were saying. Wanted to see the changes to Solace, Azami, just to tidy them up a bit. I think there's a few ideas. We've floated a few in the past of how to change them, and we won't go like too much into that today because we've got a few other things to talk about. But I mean, if you look at last week's episode, we did speak about defender balance to quite some extent. I think the only one that we can kind of add on to that just now is, of course, the conversation around Tubarao. I think, of course, he's very, very strong at the minute. DMR. I mean, we're not gonna rehash whole track this week, but the discussion is that I think that you've just raised a good point. Is I think a slight tweak to the way that they're released. Actually, I think that the early access thing, I think we need to kind of do away with that for some people. I think that everyone should just be able to just have the operator from the get go, because I feel like it does kind of make it a little bit unfair to start the first 2 weeks off. Oh, I can't have access to this. You kind of forget, especially if you're like you play a lot of Siege and you're in the space for quite a bit of time. You kind of forget because you have like for me, like I've got like the year pass, so I don't notice that as much. Whereas like some people that have to pick and choose which.
I don't have the year pass.
Yeah.
So I've not been able to play Tomb Realm, and obviously, I get why it exists. I think 2 weeks is a very long time period, and normally it's okay. I'm not normally too fussed. Azami came out, and Azami was obviously very good.
Yeah.
I think I actually had the year pass I think I had last year's year pass, so I had it for Azami. But when Fenrir came out, that's fine. I'll wait. I don't intend on playing Fenrir. I have other people that I'm playing with who really like playing Fenrir. Yeah. And it's not an operator that like screams out to me, right? So I'm fine on a personal level to like, I don't need this. I'll pick him up the moment he comes out, right? When he comes out of that quarantine, I'll get him because I like to have all the operators. If I'm playing and I want to play them, I can. But I have the renown to pick them up with that. So I don't want to spend the money because I'm a broke uni student on that pass. I mean, I would have bought it this year, but there was that whole store bug at the start of the year last January. So whatever. But I think just maybe if you bring it down to a week, that would be also fine, because then you get that week to try out the new character, but then you still get early access as everyone else to be able to play them early. 2 weeks is a long time to have to wait to play the new character, and like I said, for some operators, when Osa came out, I can see you not needing to play Osa. Pretty situational. When Sens comes out, I mean, again, you don't need them immediately. Yeah. If you want to try out some cool lineups, great, go for it. But that's the extent of those operators' sort of staying power, right? Is you bring them out for specific things. So
yeah,
it's.
I think so as well. I think that we were saying about the niche as well. I agree with. I like that. That kind of way to describe it. That the attackers feel like it's like almost like a toy to play with, something nice and shiny. Like Bravo, for instance, is probably the number one.
Brilliant example.
Like came out and just was like, oh, you can do this. Oh, that's nice. That's these are the kind of little interactions. Whereas like Tubarao was just everything. Like it's not like, oh, we found this weird interaction that might happen here and there. No, it really is every single operator in the game has some sort of weakness to Tubarao, which, I mean, just saying that, that shouldn't be the case, because why wouldn't you not pick him? You really never want to be in a scenario where you have to pick an operator to run around. You want to be encouraging flexibility, which is, I think, what they've tried to in the past, and I don't actually know how this has came about, the power creep. I don't know what the idea was behind it. I'm kind of puzzled as to how it's came around, but I guess we're here, and they have said that they're going to make some tweaks to people. So I mean, it will happen eventually. I just hope that it's not too late, like the Goyo rework, like the changes to some playlists or stuff like that. I hope it's not a little bit too much too late or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely.
What's your next? You're next on your list, because we're in agreement for our second point there. So what's your next one?
The next one on my list is an expansion of the yellow ping system.
Oh,
I want to see the yellow ping system stay around. I'm
Right.
I'm against all the naysayers. Yellow ping on drone, fine, keep doing it. I want to see it expand. We saw this in Apex, and then it came to Fortnite. Might have been the other way around, but
No, Apex started
either
it.
way, we saw it in all these games. I would like
Mm.
to see an expansion on this. It's in League of Legends. You can ping for all sorts of different information. Give players accessibility tools to make playing by yourself less painful. Um, give us where you can either just tap it and it does a little yellow ping. That's great. But I want to be able to hold it down, open a little wheel, and it gives me a couple options.
Yeah.
I can request hard breach or request EMP from a teammate. So I can ping a
So good.
wall and say request EMP, and it will put out a little notification with a sound setting. And obviously, you can go in your sound and turn the pings off if you want to. If you just like, I don't want to deal with it. But if a teammate pings, oh, I need an EMP on a wall, then anyone on your team who has EMPs can go, oh, I've got an EMP, I can go help them with that, rather than having to type it out or rather than having
Mm.
to get on comms, because some people don't want to get on comms, right? Some people don't want to use a microphone, and I appreciate that this is a competitive game, and as a competitive player myself, always want to use voice comms. It's the most effective way to do it, and I think communication is very important, obviously. But if for whatever reason, right, if you don't want to, or you're a bit nervous or shy, or we obviously know that there's certain issues with toxicity in
Yeah.
communities, um, or just if you can't, it's an accessibility option. You shouldn't, if you have some sort of personal affection that means you cannot use voice comms comfortably for whatever reason, you should still be able to play games and have access to that sort of communication
Mm.
skills. And I think the tools like that would really help. We already have, if you ping a gadget or an item, it will tell you what exactly that is.
Yeah.
So you can mark a camera or a deployable shield. So just expanding that, I think would be really helpful.
Yeah, I think that's a stellar idea actually. Because even when you said it there, my first initial thought was like when I refer back to COD, even Apex as well, like you mentioned, it's like you double press it and you get enemy. That's it, by default. You press it
Yeah,
twice
yeah,
and it'll change
exactly.
it from a normal ping to telling people that
Yeah.
it's actually an enemy there, which I think is a good thing. But then you expanded on it, saying, "Oh, I've been able to ping a wall and say, can I get an EMP here? I've been able to ping, can I get this ADS burned? Like just literally." It's simple things like that, simple mechanics. It will also teach people the fundamentals of Siege, because
Hmm.
people will see it and go,
Yeah.
"Oh, is that what I'm supposed to do with that gadget?" Right? Oh, okay. Because you need to remember from an onboarding perspective that not everybody knows where the placements are for things. An impact EMP. Not everybody knows. Okay, right. You need to impact directly on where the Cade Claw is. They might do it in
Yeah.
the middle of the wall because they're used to seeing Bandit or wherever, and that is a good way to do it, because you'll be wondering, oh wait a minute, why have they asked for the ping at that specific point, and then you
Yeah.
follow up with whatever the kind of interaction is, and then you learn something from it. So there's that aspect as well. I know that there can be conversations about it making people a little bit lazier and not using voice comms and just people just going on and ping it, which is kind of what happened with yellow pings and nades. People were just
But
like, oh, this. But I feel like that's kind of irrelevant considering
I
what it
also
brings.
I also think, like, if I'm if you're tired, you've just gotten home from work or from school or something, you're
Mm.
like, well, maybe you've just had an evening and you get home and it's kind of late and you just want to play a quick game of Siege before you go to bed or whatever, before you make food. And you come in, you're like, I don't really fancy chatting to people right now.
Yeah.
Still being able to communicate efficiently and ask for things and help out your teammates properly is going to be great. You get a little, I don't know, ping to say, push here or I'm going here. So you can tell your teammate, like you can ping main stairs bank, I'm going here when attacking like basement. And they know, oh, my teammate is doing this thing. Um, just tools to help people
Yeah.
chat without having to get on a microphone or having to take time away from the keyboard to like type something out. I think would be nice.
Yeah. Also, like you bring up like typing on keyboard as well. Like, of course, like console users can't do that. They don't have the access
Yes.
to a chat
Yeah.
anyway. So that's another thing for them. And I play on both. I play on both PC and console. So I experienced both the kind of sides of the community. And on PC, there's a way more communication than on console. Just because, I mean, think of it. Most people who have a PC, they'll have a full setup, they'll have a mic, they'll have everything. So they are more often than not going to be happy to talk to people because
Yeah.
they've got an actual rig for it. Like that's and especially for Siege, that's usually the case. Of course, push to talk is a thing as well, so they can kind of come on and off and flip between Discord, and you can experience both. Whereas on console, you can only either be on a party or you could be in game chat. It's a lot more hassle to switch between them. most of the time people don't use game chat. I never ever see it. Very rarely. In fact, genuinely, I don't think out of the 200-300 games played last season, I don't think I ever heard anyone in game chat in ranked ever. I think last season.
That doesn't surprise me.
And again, yeah, it doesn't, because a lot of the time they're in a party. I mean, anytime I play with friends, I'm in a party. I'm just with them or whatever, and there's no way to communicate with that random other than to go into your settings, change from party, change the game chat, and then hope that they are not in a party with someone else, just chilling with their friends, and because they can't hear you can't hear the two at the same time. So I think that's a really good way to solve that communication issue, and I think obviously it resonates with me as someone who plays a lot of the time on console, so it's always good.
Yeah. All right then.
That's another example of something I hadn't actually thought about. So this is turning out to be a learning experience for me, Ben.
We are breaking open the system here for Ubisoft. This is just all they need to do. Just give us our wish lists, and we'll be smooth sailing for 2024. But
yes.
Ezra, what have you got? What have you got next on your little Christmas list?
A tiny change that I think will fix a lot of the fundamental issues with Rank 2.0. Right, just a teeny tiny one, and it's just to do with visual stuff, right?
Okay.
Because we know, of course, if you came from Rank 1.0, you know that they changed it. Its placements. We won't go into the ins and outs of it today because it's quite a lengthy topic. We probably will discuss it at some point. But just to put it kind of short, your visual rank in 2.0 is different from your actual skill, whereas in 1.0 it was your visual rank was your skill. So that's a separate thing. What I'm proposing is similar to what Rocket League do, and that Rocket League have a very similar situation as our rank 2.0 just now, and that you can see where you're playing at skill level. So for instance, for me, I'm playing in Diamond skill. However, I am not going to get the ranked rewards for Diamond yet because I haven't played that enough games to be solidified in it.
Interesting.
So, for instance, it gives me basically two ranks. It says, look, we know what your skill rating is, mate. You're very good. You're in Diamond. Cool. That's good. But you kind of need to prove yourself. You need to maintain that. And once you maintain that for 100 games or however much it is, I don't know what it is for Diamond on Siege but roughly I think the ballpark figure is between like 60 and 100 games. I think is what you can get Diamond unless you're absolutely sweating it or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, it does depend. It does depend on your win rate as well.
Well, yeah, it depends on the win rate, but I think for like predominant players that are floating around that 50% kind of win rate, like that's usually what it's kind of taken.
Probably something like that.
And that's what Rocket League does. It just tells you. It just tells you where you are, and that's what is I think what's missing, and it's causing a lot of confusion for people because they're like, oh wait a minute, so I'm playing in corporate at the start of the season, but I'm actually Diamond, and I'm playing against other Diamonds, and for a lot of people like who haven't really looked into the way that it works or really just can't be bothered, they just look at the visual rank and go, oh cool, that must be what rank I am. And I feel like we just need to, if you can show people visually what it is and they can understand it, and that's a nice way that Rocket League do it. And I was just playing the other day and I was just thinking, I was like, that would actually kind of work for Siege.
Yeah. Nice. All right. I need to turn the light on, but I keep going.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a good way to change rank 2.0. We will go into more depth for that though. We do have plans. Just saying, Bennett, we have plans to talk about rank 2.0 in depth at some point.
Yes.
Because there is quite a lot to discuss about the actual ins and outs and stuff, but that'll come later. Like I said, there's just a nice little tiny tweak that says that I think might fix that issue for now, and it's just to show people there's two separate things. Yes, so that's what I would like for Christmas. What else would you like for Christmas?
Well, that's the end of my game-related Christmas wish lists.
All right.
So if there's anything else before looking at more of the competitive side, then I think feel free to wrap that up. Those are my.
Yeah. I guess I have two that are linked together. Then I guess, okay, which is just the playlist changes. I just want them tidied up. I think the quick match one I don't think is ideal. I don't quite like that change. I just want.
Yeah.
I want us to go more in the kind of sandboxy route with Siege, which is just like, oh, cool. Quick match is just everybody just do what they like. Like, find out how gadgets work, find out how to make rotates, find out stuff. Like, use your competitive cues for learning more fundamental stuff. You know, I feel like it just kind of defeats the purpose of quick match, but that would be nice to change. And in the same vein of that, in terms of playlists, is just improving the AI playlists and stuff, just so that it's better warm up tools. Which is fine. I know that's going to be coming at some point, but mainly just the quick match thing. I think that's a very simple, straightforward one. I think. Yeah,
the quick match. I think we need to get rid of the auto setup. I think new players need to learn. And if you're not a new player, but you're just playing quick match, it is the place to just mess around, right? That's the place where you pull out. Everyone brings a shotgun. We open every wall.
Exactly.
It's the goofy mess around, like you said, sandbox mode. Yeah. I will say, the changes this season to the standard playlist have really brought me around on standard.
Yeah, I don't mind. I don't mind standard. I think it has a place.
I think standard, getting rid of like the extra rounds in overtime, was not fun when they removed it. They changed the map pools to the rank map pool, and I thought, I'll give it a go. Hitting overtime and just being done, really nice if you're just trying to play a quick game of Siege.
Yeah.
You're not going to get tied into a 35, 40-minute game of Siege in unranked. That is quite nice. But I do... I'm not a massive fan that we've got no true unrated mode.
I agree.
At the moment. I know that to have standard and unranked would dilute massive amount of players, and it makes sense why there's not both. I guess actually this leads me to, you know what? Well, late addition to the Christmas list. This is the flicking through the WH Smith catalog the weekend before, and you just spot something. And you're like, oh, that looks awesome. Can we get a 5v5 queue? I want a queue. If you're in a 5-stack, you will only play against other 5-stacks. Now, I appreciate that this is harder to do because the player base is smaller. But I think it would be a real beneficial thing for the game. If every time you're playing in a 5-stack, you know you're going to be playing up against another team of 5 who are also trying to win, and it's going to be balanced.
Yes.
I think that'd be really healthy. Playing as a solo queuer or a duo or trio queue and coming up against a 5-stack, especially on some maps, if you get a Night Haven, a Consulate, a theme park, it's done. Like, you just know you have to have all 3 of you, or at least 2 of you, have to be on life games to stand a chance. You just have to win every gunfight, because there's no way you're coordinating yourself past a coordinated 5-stack on these maps. It's just not happening.
Yeah, I agree. I agree to such an extent, actually, that I have this... I have notes written down for like a competitive mode, which will feature in a future discussion. For now, because I could go on all day about playlists and the way that ranked works. I think for that we'll save that for the Rank 2.0 episode in a few weeks.
And also, one more little thing actually. I know this happens every time, but there's always something that comes to mind. I booted up Siege on the PS4 last night.
Yeah.
Right. And I didn't realize this, but when you go to play, there's a little tab that says PlayStation Tournaments.
Yes.
Can we get that on PC? Can we get a little... Because all it does is open a website link. So if we get in-game, in the like tactical mode, where you've got ranked standard, put a little tournaments thing. And it just links to the Blast website with all their like Go 5s. And it has, this is a Go 5. This is how you sign up for it. This is the Faceit client. You can get it hit. Because introducing people into that side of Siege via those tournaments is a great start. And I mean, eventually I'd like to see that integrated into the client itself, like was sort of teased, or, you know, they talked about like 3 years ago at SI about having this. And if you've played like League of Legends, the Clash events where, every couple weekends they'll do a big tournament organized in the client itself. I guess that's my final wish list thing then, I guess. That's the late addition.
The late addition to the Christmas list for that's what I mean. We're saying late addition to the Christmas list, but we're talking, strictly speaking, things that are directly related to the game, because we want to talk about some.
Yes.
And for those of you that have kind of listened to the past, the kind of formula for our podcast is to discuss kind of things related to the actual specific game and how things work, and also esports side stuff as well, because we want to link the two. And if you're listening and you want a kind of an idea as to how to get into the esports and the competitive side, make sure you listen to the rest of this. Make sure you listen to the other episodes if you haven't listened to it, and get an idea of what's going on around Siege, and not just kind of just quick match and just vibe and stuff. So have a look at that. But yes, I guess I'll lead the charge with the first one, which is just a full restructure. This is what I want from Christmas, from Blast. Please, I would like a full restructure to the stage system, which I think we will get in some capacity. Of course, for those of you that are unaware, usually we were on a 3-stage system. Now we're on a 2-stage system, with off seasons as well. Now, I think there is an argument for both. At the time when they announced the 2-stage system, people were ecstatic to have more of an off season, and then realized, oh, wait a minute, there's not anything happening. Wasn't
Ludicrous, by the way.
So
yeah.
Go on.
I don't know how, when the 2-stage announcement came out, there were people celebrating this, like having a massive off season is some great thing.
Yeah,
we'd already experienced this one season in, I think it was like 2021, with a massive off season, and it was dreadful. It was 3-4 month off season again, and we saw orgs like E United pull out. I mean, eventually that roster got picked up by Sonics and then became good under the tutelage of Super. So I guess for the sake of NA, it was probably quite good. But I just, for off seasons, let's keep them shorter. I get it. It can be really, really long. If you play every event, if you play all of stage 1, go to the major. All of stage 2, go to the major. All of stage 3, go to the major. Prep for SI, go to SI, and then you get a month to then go, cool, this is your 1 month holiday before we do it all over again. I get it. It's pretty long.
Yeah. Well,
but it's better than having... Yeah. Go for it.
Well, this is what leads me into my suggestion or my proposition is what I have of it. Now, I actually am one of the few people that's actually in favour of the 2 stages, just not in the current situation in which they are kind of executed. So 2 stages is fine. I think 2 majors is fine. Rounded out with the SI finals. So that's 3 essentially major events each year. I think that is fine. The issue is, I think we need to change. Well, I think the gap between stage 1 and 2 shouldn't be called an off season. I think we change the way that it's stylized. I think the off season is the second part. I think, and that's your off season. It's still, because like you just said, players were only getting like a month off, like between like for the year is what they were getting. That's what they were getting. So they went from that.
If you made every event,
if you made every event, of course, it has to be under the assumption you're going to make every event, because let's be realistic. Like the likes of your G2s, your W7.
The good teams will. The good teams will.
So that's what you need to kind of balance. It's like trickle down, isn't it? Balance to the top end, and from there. So my idea would be you have your SI. That's fine. You have your stage 1 again, fine. Then it's not so much an off season. I don't know what the wording would be for it. I'd have to kind of workshop that. But you have some minor tournaments, and I like the idea of not making them international tournaments. Like, for instance, like little mini majors, I'm happy with. A little EU mini major, a little Latin America, NA, during that time for the T1 teams. And then we come back, stage 2, crack along, finish that off, and then you have your actual off-season where genuinely nothing happens. It's a genuine off-season. It's a 3-month break for players, coaches, everyone. Like an actual period, which is supposed to be
3 months.
Well, yeah. Well, what is it now? 3 months.
Yeah, and it's so long.
I know it's so long, but at the same time, like
it's a drought.
I know it's a drought. It sucks for like viewers and stuff, but at the same time, the reason that this was like heralded when it came about was that players were like, "Yes, time off. Oh my god, this is so good. I don't have to keep playing all the time." I think it's cool to have in that off season have little events like Malta, have little events like your Rainbow Rumbles, stuff like that, where teams can jump in, they can qualify. That's fine because it's still an off season. That's the thing. But I think the expectation is that you don't, like, for instance, BDS haven't touched an off season tournament. They're not interested in it. They're like, yep, we're just going to let our players just rest, whatever. And I think that's the better way to do it. I think it gives us the events as well. It gives us some events to fill, some actual events, and an actual off season as well, because we have this kind of flip flop between right now. The T2 conversation is completely separate. I think that should always run in tandem with your Pro League. Like, no, obviously not necessarily at the same time. So, like, your stage 2 games. Your T1 games are happening Monday to Wednesday. Then obviously have
Yeah.
your Challenger games Thursday to Saturday or whatever, so that people can watch both if they want to. They're also different broadcasting. They're different teams, so both all your your actual T2 talent in terms of presenters like us, we all get involved. Below, instead of just having the T1 talent doing everything, and also the T1 teams as well have their own thing. T2 teams get their own thing as well and get to compete against each other and work their way up. And I also, with that, to add on, also want to see the return of regulations and stuff. Relegations, up downs. So it adds a bit of pressure, a bit of zest to it to me.
I'm torn on. So I got to think. First of all, I'll start with the end. I'm always torn when it comes to the idea of relegations and franchised systems. I appreciate and I love relegations. Don't get me wrong. Seeing teams and being able to like actually have this very realistic pathway up. We saw Empire. We saw what eventually became Na'Vi, Secret, Vitality came up. Well, they dropped down and then had to come back up. But there's been teams, especially in Europe, that have really come through and shown why relegations are great. The difficulty of relegations is having orgs willing to stick around through that. We've been very fortunate in that a lot of the big orgs that have hit relegations, this is in EU, have stuck around. Vitality's team dropped down, and Vitality said, "We're holding on to you. We're going to play out the Challenger League season, and you're going to qualify again." And they did that. Secret dropped down. They stuck by their team. They've requalified. That hasn't always been the case. The classic one is NA. NA relegations used to be such a fiesta because you didn't have, I'm just going to be honest, that you didn't have organizations willing to stick around through it. What would happen? Rogue would get relegated. This happened with Rogue. This happened with Luminosity. This happened with countless orgs. And it's like they would get relegated. They would then, or they'd enter relegations. They would lose the relegations. Then the org, like Rogue, they get dropped down to Challenger League. They would drop their team. They would buy out the team that just qualified. And then they'd turn around. And because of the 3/5 rule, they'd go, okay, we're going to hire 2 of our old players back. And then the next roster, they just bring back the rest of the players. Or like 2 of the players. Or another 1 of the players. So the same orgs would just stay around at the top anyway. And it was effectively a pseudo-franchise leagues. Except like the players who won Challenger League occasionally got like a tiny, tiny buyout in terms of a salary for like the month before they just got dropped again. And you'd see these like journeyman rosters of like Obey and like Noble. And these teams were just the same players every single split. And they'd just get dropped and then they'd just come back getting picked up by random other squads that just like needed players. I don't know. I think so. There's examples of it working and it not. And I think what franchise does bring is that stability in terms of these, 10 teams in Europe, 8 teams in NA at the moment have their spot and they get to keep going. And it does lead to situations where you have some orgs who are constant bottom feeders. But I'm okay with that if it still looks like they're trying things out. Like Beast Coast had a rough split last split, right? Stage 2. They've dropped their roster. They've picked up. They're picking up a new roster built by FET, right? And the idea is that they're trying something new. They're being experimental. And you can't see this in a relegation system because what happens in a relegation system? Beast Coast build a team around Mr. B. They come 8th. They now have to play in a qualifier game. They lose to, let's say Khan & Co., right? The team that won Element 1. So I think it's safe to say that had Challenger League still existed today, Khan & Co. come up to Challengers League, Beast Coast drop out. Beast Coast probably drop that team. Beast Coast aren't going to pay a team to hang around in Challenger League for however long, right? Like, if we can keep orgs invested in Siege and build them into Siege, we have the R6 share program. It's a great system. So I think franchising, I'm okay with, as long as it's done well. And we have teams that are willing to experiment. Secret, willing to make big changes. Marlon Mello put out a big tweet today. It's in Portuguese, but you can translate it. And it's really interesting. It basically is them talking about their year, the summary of the year for Secret. They go to SI. They then rebuild their roster afterwards, dropping Kendrew. That's a big change to make for Secret. And they know that they can do this because if they have a bad stage, they're not eliminated. They can then still come back.
Yep.
And we see this time and time again with orgs that then become entrenched into your scene. They can build a fan base. Admittedly, I think orgs don't do this well enough, but
Yeah.
that's that again. I'm not going to go into that today about
Yes,
what
of
orgs should be
course.
doing to what orgs should be doing to cultivate fan bases and whatnot, and
Mhm.
transferring viewership from one game to another. Because obviously, Team Secret, legacy organization, massive in Dota 2, but there's and they're growing in Siege. Really, really happy they're around.
Yeah.
But it's hard to translate these things, and I think we can see maybe more be done. But again, I'm okay with that. I've forgotten what the other part was that I was going to
Yeah.
complain about.
There's what I mentioned that the stage two, like two stages system and off season
Yeah,
and stuff. So.
of course. 2 stages, absolutely happy with that. But let's see events in between. Gamers 8, great example of a massive event in between. We can do mini majors, sure. I would really like to see more promotion of events in between. One thing with the CSGO system and the way that their circuit works is you don't have a stable league as such, right? It's just like every couple months, every other month, you get a really big event. Every 3 months, you get a massive major, and in between that, there's smaller international events that teams can choose to travel to or not.
Yeah.
If we're going to have a 3 month off season, right? I would much rather see that time be used for, hey, we're going to have a DreamHack here or a DreamHack there, or we're going to do like a Gamers 8 or another equivalent event of that sort of style. And we don't have to give SI points, right? Like, but maybe you do. The one of the really fun things a couple of years ago was watching teams go to these DreamHacks to try and win SI spots.
Yeah.
That's how Millennium won their SI spot. That's how Cloud9 won their SI spots. And it was this driving factor for teams. If we say, okay, look, we have 20 teams that come in through the points, and then you have 4 teams that come in through a last chance qualifier, or those teams can come in through events.
Yeah.
We do a couple DreamHacks in NA. We could do, or not necessarily DreamHack. I'm saying DreamHack, but like an event, right? You could put Gamers 8 could also give an invite spot. I think Gamers 8 works slightly differently because it's obviously invited teams, and a lot of those teams are already going to have it, and you want to keep that its own prestigious thing for BDS to win a third time. But some of these smaller events, give them an SI spot, give them SI points even for placements, right? Like, let's encourage teams, especially for, like, we've been talking about it. Oh, why does APAC have so many spots at majors? Why do they get so many spots at SI? Because of the way the point system works. Well, this would be a great equalizer. Sure, M&M could now have just missed SI, or BDS missed SI by 50 points. Well, if they can get second place at 2 international events, or 1 international event, or win one of them, that's going to give them that boost to leapfrog like 4 teams because of how close the points are at the bottom of that standings. So let's give incentivization for teams to go out and play more high quality Siege and get out there.
Yeah. I agree in that aspect. That's why I was kind of saying that, like, the first off season I think should be used for that. I still think we need an off season of sorts.
A gap, yeah. I get that.
Maybe 3 months is not long enough. Maybe you restructure the way it kind of fits, and the way that the kind of games fall and stuff. But I think though that, like, of course, like, based on the way it was received, I can remember when the 2-stage system came out and the players were like, "Oh my god, I cannot wait to get time off." Like, a lot of people were talking about it at the time, and that was a very big discussion. And it's now, of course, kind of faded away because teams have realised how little opportunity they have to make an event, because if they have one bad stage, then unfortunately it slips away. So I think if you fix kind of those 2 issues with it, and that you give people the opportunity to get more points, like you were saying, and maybe it's minors, maybe mini majors, whatever the kind of combination is. I'd personally like to see like 3 big international events with like smaller inter-regional events. I think that's kind of like, I think that's a bit nicer because it kind of ensures that you get the best of each region. Because, for instance, like or like when you set yourself up as a title of like, oh, they're the best EU team, but they might not make a major, it's kind of strange. Like Team BDS, I think that there was like a lot of, like, for a long time, let's be honest, Team BDS were like considered the best beat team in EU specifically, and it's just the international stage they can't, like, they've struggled with. So it's like very strange again that they're not at a major, whereas they have that kind of thing above them. Of course, Virtus Pro technically were the Kings of Europe stage 2, was it?
Definitely. I think 1 as well.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. I can't remember how they worked. Off the top of my head, but yeah, like I think that's like a nice way to do it. Like these are you also get a bit more points for being literally the best in your region, and from there. Anyway, there's loads of discussions in terms of which points and how to distribute. Like this, I'm just trying to kind of come to like a consensus for this the 2-stage system plus the off season. Because if you go back to a 3-stage system, then you have the same issue. You just have the same issue as before. You like the timings, the rest for players. It's difficult to kind of do it that way. Because let's be honest, when we say 2 stages, there's technically 3 because SI is a major event as well. So you've got to take that into consider, and that takes a big chunk as well of time and preparation.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, theoretically, if you look at it the way that kind of lies, and that's kind of the way that Blasted kind of marketed it in the off season. You'd have 3 months to prep for this event, 3 months to prep for this event,
yeah.
and stuff. And so like that's kind of the way that it was
conceived.
Thinged. Which again is fine. I like the idea behind it. I just think there needs to be things tidied up. And obviously the big one for me is like the return of some form of like actual Challenger League. If you don't want to call it that, call it something else, whatever. I don't care. But
Yeah, a big T2 only event.
There just has to be a T2 event in EU.
Year round.
They're just like year round ideally, but there just has to be one. There hasn't been one for Siege for EU, and it's nice to see these like teams compete. But you know, you've got things like G-Who, great team, really enjoy watching them. They're coming up against G2 in Southbreach. GG's.
Yeah.
Cool. Like you're a T2 team or a T3 team coming up. You've had a good run, and you have to face literally the world champions. Literally, like, it's not fun. It might get their name out there. It might come to that aspect, but like if we're being realistic, for the most part, those results just end up in a quick 2-0, and everything, and no one looks good except from the world champions. So like, and that's no slight on the team. The team again, it's just waiting, the actual level of play to some people. Some of these people are literally just turned 18, and it's like their first time playing at this level and stuff. And you're playing against the likes of like Alama was a seasoned like player at top level, Doke, like all these players, like, so I think that is a big change. I think for me that needs to happen. I think. Yeah,
no, I can see that. Following on then, because that was also on my list.
Yes, I imagine so.
Was the restructure.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is the map pool.
Okay.
I want Villa and Theme Park back.
I'm on that train as well.
I want Border gone. Border Cafe, get him out of here.
Yeah.
I'm also down for a bit of fun. Let's see some coastline back in. I could also be tempted for not for SI but for a stage 1 to see some Emerald Plains or an Outback, something like this that hasn't yet been played in. I would like to see the map pools changed, maybe a little bit more frequently, but not around majors. So, for example, don't change it right before SI. But for stage 1, let's see what happens if you add in Villa and Theme Park and take out Border Cafe, and maybe take out Oregon and add Coastline. Do those 3 changes. And then we play out stage 1. Stage 2 comes around, and we can go, okay, well, we've had our sort of year of this. You know what? Turns out, let's say, Coastline doesn't really work out, or Theme Park doesn't quite work out. Take it out, throw in an Outback, right? And then slow down changes. Honestly, just consistent but less changes. Let's add 1 map in at a time. Let's add 2 maps in at a time, but just see this change so that we get to see a little bit more from these older maps. Or I say older as if Outback hasn't been reworked, but it's technically 4 years old plus the rework happening a couple seasons ago. But let's just see more maps come through. Is what I'd like to see. Because again, we've seen this multiple times. Skyscraper, Consulate, Labs, Chalet. These maps aren't played in ranked until they get played in comp, and then they're played in ranked. So let's just see it.
I agree with that. I think that's a good idea. Changing it between stages, I think is a good idea. I think stage one, we run a map pool, cool. Stage 2, we change the map pool, cool. And then we keep whatever the final kind of one is for the year, and then go from there. I know we've lost Ben's cam for a second. I'm still here. I think we could still hear you, so it's okay.
You can still hear me. It's just my wonderful Wi-Fi being awful in my room. So we'll get that back up in a second. But
yeah, I'll come back in a sec. It's all good. It is a podcast after all, so having your pretty face here is just bonus time. It's all about that spectre in the form of your voice.
Indeed.
Yes, to carry on from that, I think that the map pool changes is good. I would like to see. Oh, he's back. Hello. Nice. I would like to see. Theme Villa come back. I just don't think we got the most out of maps. Like, I think we've got the most out of Oregon. I don't think there's anything else.
I will say, theme park in the current meta, don't bring it back.
Yeah, that's true.
As much as I want to see theme park again, theme park with Azami, Fenrir, Tuberam, let's not do it. That is going to be no fun to watch. I criticize Cafe for being very repetitive and stale and slow. Ooh, we may actually, as much as I just requested it on second thought, need a bit of a timeout on the theme park. Let's do, but I think we could go for Villa Coastline Outback or Villa Coastline, something like that. I think it's important to always have balance in a map pool. So let's.
I think I know, and yes, of course, there will be people that will kind of disagree and say, "Oh well, don't like that map. It's not fun. It's not a good map." But like at the same time, like some of the reasons
I've put up
the
with
maps,
border. So.
Exactly. Some of the maps are also intrinsically bad because we don't see them competitively, so people don't know how to actually play them. Like when I couldn't Outback, I just wing it. Not gonna lie, like
no one knows what they're doing.
No, like exactly. No one knows. Like there's some things that you kind of go like, oh, that's default in quotations. But
the Outback. The Outback meta was, what did people start doing at the end of the first week of that map existing?
Yeah.
Okay, let's keep doing that. And that's why we don't see these changes. And it's very slow because, again, there's no one who sat there like, let us strat out and set up this map. I want, like, could you full extend on Outback? Probably not because of Picnic, but you might be able to. You might be able to fully extend and just say, go for it. I think it's always fun seeing what people who have to put up with it can come up with. Because you know that there will be teams, and there always are teams, that pick up the new map to add that as a strength in their arsenal, right? You know the new map? Oh, you don't? Well, we do. So you have to ban it, or we get to just roll you for fun.
Well, it's G2. It's G2 right now with Consulate, isn't it? Like
G2 with Consulate, W7M with Consulate. Sonic's Dark Zero phase with the labs, SI. It's been really fun.
That's a good point. Like, it could be. It's not the most competitive map. I think everybody knows that.
But that's why you do it for like stage 1, where it doesn't really matter. Yeah, and if it turns out to be terrible, get rid of it for stage 2. If it turns out to be great, brilliant.
It's best of ones as well. You need to remember that we're in best of ones, so you can always ban it.
Yep.
Just we might go through a full stage and never ever see it like at all, and then that just goes cool. Right, that's that. Like, that's fine. You know. I think it's fine to experiment with maps, especially in that stage 1, like you were saying. I think that's kind of nice. I think that's a good idea, and I can see why it's on the Christmas list, as well, just to see something. It's also like a refresher, as well. It's
just nice to see different things get played.
Yeah, I mean, how refreshing has it been watching Labs and Consulate?
So fun.
So like, because when Consulate first came out, very much Consulate got a really bad reception. Labs was fine because it was different. It was kind of mixed. People were like, is this good? But Consulate got slated. I mean, I was on that train as well. Like, and
people were calling it the new Fortress, which again, Fortress is another map that I think people wrote off too early. It has its flaws. But it was always an enjoyable map, and it's pretty unique. It needs a small rework, I reckon, and it would be absolutely fine. But
I think I'll actually staple onto the back of that apart from our Christmas. Like, actually, just a tidbit, just to reference back to maybe the game aspect as well. I would like to see a couple of reworks to like the quick match ones to bring them up to competitive level. A bit more of them. We haven't really seen as many. Like
I think
the mini reworks that they did, like the banks, the coastlines, like one of those.
so. I have a weird thing on reworks. I think like we obviously talked about this just like in casual conversation with what is the most successful rework.
Mm.
And the ones you always come up to are like the ones that get played in comp.
Yeah.
It's your chalets, your clubhouse, your skyscraper. Those are the three for me that really stand out. Oregon obviously had a good rework, but Oregon was a playable map before. The rework just made it more balanced. Um, I think the worst rework was House.
Yes.
Oh no, sorry. The worst rework was actually Hereford Base, and then it was House. But I think so. Siege, obviously, and you look at the old map design in Siege, it's all done around what the game used to be, which was 5v5 kind of SWAT-like experience in these cool different places. It's why you have look at all the old maps, Plain, like obviously Chalet was an old map. It was supposed to be just like this SAS operation in the French Alps. Like they're all very sort of thematic.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with having these thematic maps that aren't very balanced because I think it's important to have the quick play side of things still around. I'm fine with Yacht being a little bit unbalanced.
Yeah.
I'm fine with Hereford Base being unbalanced. Favela, Plain, all these maps, I'm fine with them existing as long as we understand what they exist for. And that is for like I want to have fun, I want to play quick match, and these are some really cool, unique maps. Obviously, if every map could be perfectly balanced for competitive, that would be awesome.
Yes.
But obviously, I appreciate that that's not how resources work. That's not how dev time works. And so we have to make these sacrifices where we go, okay, some things aren't going to be made full comp. And I'm okay with some maps being that way. But I agree with you. Like, let's see these reworks happen to put them in better positions.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, there's only a few that I would like. For instance, like you're not gonna rework you're not gonna rework Plane. These ones, they're never gonna be competitive.
Also,
like,
really iconic.
Yeah, exactly. Which is why the house rework kind of stings as well. Actually, like I don't think that should have been touched. To be honest, I think that could have been left. I mean, old siege heads have spent thousands of hours running T-hunts on that map. It was a very strange one, but it is what it is. It happens. I think the Favela one's not as egregious because Favela was absolutely chaos. Like
it's now
map.
a fine quick play match,
which is fine. Yeah, I think the one I'm thinking of is Fortress because I think I do see potential in Fortress. That's the one like you highlighted.
Same.
I think that's the one I the most. Like when you look at the size of the map, the way it flows, there is a couple like if they spent some time on it, I feel like that could actually be a viable map.
You make the inside gardens a little bit bigger and a little bit more vibrant, so that it has its sort of you almost make Fortress like a mini sort of I want to say paradise sort of style building, but like where it very much looks very different to the exterior of it, right? Because the exterior, the whole point of Fortress as its design is it's like this is in the name a fortress in Morocco. I think it's Morocco.
Yeah.
But let's make it a bit brighter. Let's add a little bit of color to it. And then just make it look really cool and play really well. Some of the rooms already really distinct. Having that outside courtyard is really nice. I would again put like some greenery down in the bottom bit, right? Make it a little garden.
Yeah.
Have some cool stuff going there. Maybe expand it out, and then you have this sort of courtyardy bit that looks down, but also isn't exposed to the roof like Coastline, so that it's distinct while having that vibe, which it still is. Like you can't access that courtyard from the roof. I think it could be really fun. And it's one of the ones that I do enjoy pulling up in quick match, just because I get to sort of replay it a little bit.
Yeah, well, I played that in a 2v2 a few weeks ago. I was like, yeah, we'll play some. I got to pick the maps from any map, and they expected me to pick a competitive one. I picked Fortress. I was like, hey, I'll take it to Fortress. We didn't win, but it was worth a try. In terms of like the actual, come back to kind of the topic, I guess, of which the more kind of esports, the kind of Christmas stuff that we'd like to kind of see. I mean, the big one for me was just that restructuring. Really.
Yeah.
My other one would be just the like location of events. I just want to see a bit more diversity. That's literally it. Which we're obviously getting with Brazil getting their SI.
Yes, let's go.
I think that they will always probably want to have one in Europe, one in NA. If they do decide to go for 3 stages, I want them to use that other third stage to be Brazil. If they're going to keep it that way, like keep it
Yeah,
like
so
like
every year you get one in.
like you get one in like the major regions, because yes, Brazil is a major region. Reminder.
Yep.
Or you just freestyle it and you just decide to go kind of, we'll go here, we'll go here, we'll go here. But I think that should be less for SI, which I think is a nice way that they've did that. I like the idea of SI moving around the world. Like ideal scenario, next year we get NA, we get EU, and then SI we go to Japan or something. Which is nice. I think it's good. I think that's a good way, and we kind of explore the world. I think is try different ones, and maybe potentially get an event in the UK, maybe
SI UK,
Scotland, Edinburgh. You know,
SI Slough. Let's go.
Yeah, I'll start putting out feelers for Ubisoft if you want to get an event in Edinburgh. You know, I know some people. I think that's just like what I'd like to see. Just a bit more things as opposed to just seeing all the time just which Scandinavian country we're going to, which part of the US we're going to every year. I think that we just need to see a bit more diversity, which I think again is happening in the form of Brazil.
I think to piggyback off of the diversity in terms of events, I'd also like to see a return back to the old style of staging. Both Atlanta and Copenhagen were the same set design. And it looked really nice. Don't get me wrong, the set was great. But I think it was really iconic. It was really cool when we had that sort of unique style for each event, and it made each event feel very self-contained.
Yeah.
But in the best kind of way. Not like, it's like Berlin, doesn't really matter for anything else. Like Berlin having like the scaffolding stage with like the sort of techno vibe felt really distinctly Berlin.
Yeah.
It felt perfect for where it was.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd like to see that more and more, where we get these really specifically designed set pieces. Jönköping, obviously, they had the whole like ice theme, because it was sort of, I was going to say North Sweden, but it's not North Sweden. It's just slightly further North Sweden.
Mm-hmm.
But mid Sweden in November, it was freezing. As someone who didn't realize you could enter before the time on the ticket, it was freezing. I was waiting outside for like an hour and a half before like someone told me like you are just allowed to like go in early and just like walk around the event. I was like, okay, brilliant. But let's see. I'd just like to see a little bit more sort of cool stuff.
I agree that we spoke about that a few times. Just the set designs and stuff for the events. And they felt very similar, which is, again, you didn't notice it as much because they're kind of back to back. But when there's only 2 stages, so
yeah, that is true.
But there is, the distinct kind of design for each kind of stage or whatever stuff. The Berlin one is probably the biggest one you can think of, just because everyone was so like, good. This is the most bizarre stage ever.
And SI is always very SI has its own style.
Yeah.
And SI always feels like SI. So I get that. It was I forget where it was, but the 2021 Sweden major where it was all Viking themed.
Yeah.
And they had like all the shields with all the team's insignia. Like that was awesome. And like the horns.
Yeah, I think that'd be nice.
In that big sort of like hall. Really cool. There's been some really cool set designs in Siege. We have like a really creative sort of team behind Siege.
Yeah.
And I'd like to see them sort of unshackled again to go crazy, where like SI and Rio will be awesome. It will look amazing. I'm telling you now, it will look gorgeous. It will be SI, like classic stuff, like that white logo, like the white background with the blue, yellow, red all over it. Like it will look green, orange, whatever the colors are. It will look awesome. And I want them to carry that form through. And that's, again, not to like diss the Atlanta and Copenhagen stages. The stages looked great. They were really cool. They just felt quite familiar. I personally really enjoy it when we go big and bold and crazy on sets.
Yeah, and especially I think that especially feeds back into if we're going to have less majors, then they want them to be more niche and kind of designed a bit differently, which would be nice to see. But again, that just comes into the kind of structure. Of course, this is just Blast's first year overtaking. We know that it's been
Yeah,
a
of course.
multi-year, so we know that they're very much just trying slightly different things and kind of.
It was a setup year, really.
Yeah, well,
I think
that's
it's
the
a
thing,
fair way to put it.
Yeah, getting like a kind of the feelers out, seeing what people like, what the kind of style is, and not just, of course, and I respect them for not just following the same format as well, because it's made us all think about, oh, wait a minute, what could we do with an off season? What could we do with this and different stuff? Like, so I respect them for that, but of course these are kind of just some of our thoughts as to like what we would like to kind of see going into kind of 2024. Of course, we know that there's been a bit of dedication to Siege and then longevity wise, because I mean they're looking for another like 10 years. I think that it's just going to be. I think it's supposed to just be a live service game indefinitely. I think is what they want to go for, which I'm all for.
I am surprised we haven't seen Siege hit free to play on that sort of idea of live service. I don't mind it because again, it does. If Siege went free to play, the cheating problem would become insane.
Yep.
But I am surprised. You know, with this idea of like pushing to a live service model, most of them go free to play. Siege isn't expensive, to be fair, but it is interesting to me. It's just an interesting observation. No, I don't have an opinion either way. I don't think.
Yeah.
But it's just something to.
Do you have any other additions to your esports Christmas list?
The only other thing, and I think I put down, but this is kind of being sold at the moment, is more shoulder content. I just want to see more cool content coming out for Siege, and we're getting like the after movies now of events, which is awesome. That's really cool. I'm sure at SI there'll be more content pieces because we always seem to get one or two creator pieces. Last year it was Coconut Bra and Pengu, who got like a little piece at SI, and I'm sure there'll be more this year. But just more stuff outside of just the games themselves coming out. I think would be my little last wish. Just so that we can get to know players a bit more. Let's see something cool from like EUL, and then they do like a cool introduction for all the teams or meet certain players. Let's do like interviews outside of play days.
Yes.
So you just get like just a cool little video, and it's like a 15-minute interview or half an hour interview with, maybe not half an hour, but you know, just like it could literally be a 15-minute video, and it's just an interview with like Team Secret, and it's all of Team Secret, and it's like, you know, the fun little ones we get at like majors where it's like, oh, like do Bleed Esports know R6 trivia or like whatever, right? There was the Hot Ones, not Hot Ones videos that they were doing at Atlanta, stuff like that, but just for teams generally. And I think this sort of links back into, I want to see teams doing more shoulder content as well. We've seen orgs like G2, I mean, it's G2, right? They always do content for everything, but they do, like, for example, when they get a skin, they do a big reveal video. The Azami with Doki getting protected, brilliant video. The Aruni video they did, amazing as well. Like, these are really good quality pieces. They do their team's comms because they're allowed to record their own team's comms and then put them out as a video, and they have the plays from the play day, and they overlap it with, rather than having the caster voices from the stream, they just have their team's POVs and audio, and it's really cool to see. They do fun little off-season videos with their players. Fnatic do this with their League of Legends roster and their Valorant roster. There are opportunities for organizations to get a little bit more publicity out there, and it helps build their fan base. It helps build relatability to these players, which there's not enough of for me. I want to see more of these players being personalities. It's why I was such a big fan of all the interviews Jackie was doing at Atlanta. Just getting players to play. Like, I would not have thought that Shaiko versus Alems, Bride versus Alems playing Connect 4 was going to be like the most personable we've ever seen either of those players be on camera.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was really good. It was really enjoyable to watch because that was all it was. Just, you guys just crack on with this little game, a little bit of fun, and we'll just ask you some questions, and that's it. Just always nice. I have one more thing to add on. For the kind of, I guess, the more esports side of Siege. And it is. I want to see it at LAN,
Mm.
just in general, for the community. So I'll link it down below for those of you on YouTube. I'll probably do a bit of promotion near the time, but Community LAN is happening in February in London in the UK. And that is an absolutely massive undertaking from some of our community members who've put that together themselves because they are so desperate to get some Siege played on LAN against one another. Just for fun. It's not even for anything. It's literally just a one-day LAN. That's all it is. And they've put it together. We're going to be casting there. It's going to be just it's going to be a merry old time. Pardon the pun. But I want to see that more given out to or supported throughout the community, and this is more focused on like the UK, I guess. I know that in the US you've got like the collegiate Siege and stuff, but in the UK we have like a little bit of University Siege, and other than that we don't really see anything. It's no longer at Epic LAN. It's not featured at Insomnia either. So some of these big events that happen throughout the UK don't have Siege on the stage, and everybody, and I can tell you this right now, everybody loves to watch Siege. Every event I've been to, every person I've spoken to who's kind of just wandered past and seen Siege being played, they absolutely love it. The reason they love it is because everything is so impactful. Everything that happens in a round, it's so enjoyable. It isn't like a quick round of kill feed lighting up and ending over and you kind of feel nothing. Everything feels like it has an impact. It feels like it has gravitas, and it's so enjoyable to watch. And we're just missing that. That's it. And, kind of proves the point that the community's decided, we're going to make our own LAN if we're not going to get one. And I think that I want to see that supported a bit more. I don't know who is in charge of supporting that.
Yeah.
I want to see it.
Yeah, it's hard, right? Because you don't know who, like, again, Epic LAN didn't run it because there wasn't enough turnout, right? Like, they ran it and they had, 2 teams? And they ran it again and one team turned up. So that team just won by default and there was no event.
Yeah.
So it's unfortunate, right? Because it's like, we need to turn up to these events as a community.
Yeah,
we need to turn out for it. But again, like, I think one of the best things about Siege is just how unique Siege is. There's no, I can't play Siege, I'll play this other thing that's a bit like Siege. Like, people talked about, like because with every game, you have the X game killer. Valorant, that's the CSGO killer. Valorant, that's the Overwatch 2 killer. Like, it never happens. These things never kill the other thing, but they're always fighting them. Nothing has ever come out and been a realistic attempt at a Siege killer. Ready or Not came out, and people were like, I'm going to move to this. This is what Siege really is. And a week later, they were like, yeah, I'm done playing Ready or Not. Like, this isn't shit to flame Ready or Not. It's not Siege, right? It's a very different type of game. What was the other one that came out? Was it 0 Hour or something like this?
I think so, yeah.
That people were like, the amount of people who said to me, like, like, this has replaced Siege for me. And literally a week later, they were done with the game. And I've never heard anything about 0 Hour since its, like, launch month.
Yeah.
Maybe launch week or 2 weeks. And then it fell off the face. Yeah. Due Process is another one that came out that people were like, this is going to be a thing. Again, you haven't heard about Due Process in 2 years, unless you're a Node fan. So there's nothing else like it. And the community is incredibly passionate. And players love it. We love it as casters, right? Like, there's no game like it. I think that builds into why it's so well received at these events, is because everyone involved in Siege is very passionate about Siege.
Yep. That's always the feedback as well. Like, I've been to I went to Epic LAN, and that was I have genuinely been out there just screaming about Siege at Epic LAN every single time. Just as like an example, and for those of you who don't know what Epic LAN is, it's just essentially a LAN event that happens in the UK. And where every feature CS2, it's every there's 2-3 a year, I think.
Yeah, it's like that.
Valorant, CS2 used to have Siege. A lot of the talent for Siege came from Epic LAN. Your Desi's, Aces, all these kind of talent, they've all probably casted an Epic LAN at some point. Because that's how they got into it. A lot of teams as well. A lot of players played there. Like, a lot of the UCAN scene played at them. And
they used to give spots.
Well, they used to give spots, and that's why I'm bringing it up right now, because so Valorant features like they've got the beacon points,
Yeah.
and that's why a lot of people went to Epic Land. Like they had like 30 teams sign up for it when they did beacon, and then there was a big drop off because they stopped doing the beacon points. So a lot of time, and then it kind of almost halved, and people just kind of went because they enjoyed the LAN. But you're never going to go to a LAN if you don't have that incentive and you don't understand, why. Like if it's just an event, come to your first LAN, we're just doing this for a bit of fun. People have never experienced it, and once you experience the LAN environment, playing on a stage, having people celebrate you at that level, then you want to go back. You'll do everything you can to go back, and that's what I think we need. I think if we can do that in like the UK or whatever, like of course this is more of a specific UK like discussion, just because to do this is more of a kind of isolated thing, and maybe it leads into the National League conversation again. Maybe it kind of links back into that, I guess. But just want to see. We just want to see more Siege in general, but I want to see more Siege I can actually physically go to, and meet everyone and have a good time, and maybe shout out. Maybe because that wouldn't hurt either.
The lands are so fun. I was fortunate enough to be able to go to both Jönköping and Copenhagen majors. So good. Especially just like the atmosphere, just seeing people there is great fun. It is a shame that with less events in a year, it obviously makes it harder to get to. In terms of for both like Jönköping and Copenhagen, I was like a coach right away, right? So it was like I got a train to Copenhagen for the major, right? So it's just like the ease of access was so much lower. But when they're around and when they're nearby, if you can get to them, I'd highly recommend it. Because they're so fun, and it's why things like the community land are going to be, or should be, a good laugh. Because again, it's in London. It's I was about to say just a train ride away. Just the train ride is now backbreaking, but it is in theory easier to get to.
Yeah, I think that's the message, I guess, for our Christmas message to the audience at home. Go and watch Siege. Go and support Siege, whether it's local, whether it is a T4 league, whether it's through Discord, whatever it is, just support it, because our community is the one that is keeping this going. Like, it's our fault we're still here. Like, like we're keeping it genuinely as a community. We're so niche. There's no overlap. I've dipped my toes into Valorant. I've dipped my toes into COD, and there is genuinely no overlap. People do not touch Siege if they're not a Siege person. Like you're just in Siege or you're not. That's that. Like it's not like I also I play CS2, I play Val. Like you generally, there's not that much overlap. That's why you don't see the same pros, the same talent, doing everything. That's why it's all one big happy family and community, and we want to keep that going.
It is interesting because if you see talent doing Siege and something else, they're always a Siege person doing something else.
Yes.
Dez has been doing VCT, or did the last VCT, and he was it VCT?
Yeah, it was VCT.
Yeah, it was VCT. But it's not, Dez is a Valorant and Siege caster. He's a Siege caster, he's doing Valorant. It's always how it goes. There was a Nerd Street event a couple of years ago that Kix and Intero did together. And again, it was the Siege casters trying out Valorant for a bit. It's interesting that that's just sort of what the trend seems to be, that people will go and do other things, but Siege is what their home base is. And it's never like, I've done Valorant this, and this, and I'll come into Siege. And I think historically, we've had a bit of an issue with this in terms of talent and accepting new talent on board. We had Golden Boy come to an event, and he did not get received very positively in Raleigh. And hasn't come back, which again is a shame, because I think we need the support of external sort of talent. And it's why, with like obviously Ian has been great and has kind of come through Siege, but he's done so much Siege that by the time he got to the top of Siege, like he was a supported voice, and like he's done a great job and people knew he would. But like Jackie coming in and doing events now and now taking over NAL has been brilliant. And her treatment has been a lot better than from other people in the past, where it used to just be like, give us back Matt Andrews. And unfortunately, he's not returning. I say that again, would be fun to have a little throwback, but it's been really good. And I'm very happy with where most stuff is. I think it's sort of my final little wrap up is it's doing good. We're doing okay. We just keep swimming.
We just keep swimming, yeah, exactly. But I'm optimistic going into 2024. I'm hoping that we're gonna have a good year. I'm pretty sure we are. There's a few things need sorted, but I'm sure we're gonna have a good year. We'll keep plodding along anyway. I hope you've enjoyed listening to us ramble about our Christmas list. If you want to get involved, shoot us your Christmas list. What do you want from Siege? What do you want from Blast for next year? From Ubisoft, whoever at Siege, whatever, anyone you can tell to do. You can even do me if you want. I don't have that much pull, or Ben. It doesn't matter.
I probably have less pull, so
tell anyone else. You've got us on Twitter, Radio 6 Podcast, YouTube comments as well. You could drop us an email. Just hit us with your Christmas list. We could even we could do a wee reward. Are you feeling bold, Ben?
We do. We do. Well, it depends on what time frame we're looking at, right? Do we want to set the really bold timeline and say you have till New Year's to get your guesses in, and next Christmas we look back and go, what was successful? I feel like a year might be a bit long to wait, but we could do something. I don't mind doing a little best predictions for a year's time.
We could do that. We could do that, and then next year we'll give you some R6 credits as your reward if you manage to get them right.
That'd be the longest delayed payment ever, I think.
That's it. To be fair, it's probably quicker than most in esports. Oh,
true. But yeah, we could do something. We could do something fun. I don't mind that.
Yeah, we could do some fun. But get some community engagement going for Christmas. But yes, tune into the episode. And hit us up afterwards. If you made it to the end. Or if you just skipped to the end, hello. There's always that. But hit us up on Twitter at Radio 6 Podcast. Our email is just floating along at the bottom as well, radio6podcast@gmail.com. Send us your Christmas list, and I suppose next one we can read them out and see what they are.
Any fun Christmas lists, we'll give a shout out to. We'll do that.
I'll maybe see if we can get some giveaways going as well for Christmas, because we're always we're kind like that, and I'm sure I can wrangle something up. But anyway, thanks everyone for tuning in. Is there anything you want to add on before we go, Golu?
I think we'll throw out just a quick little. There won't be an episode next week.
Yes.
For Christmas. Avoid busy periods and away. So there won't be an episode until the new year. But 1st of January we'll be back. Starting Mondays again. So we'll make sure we're ready for that, and that will be our reflection of the year of 2023 in Siege, and a little bit of a glimpse to 2024, I think. But so it will be a little bit of a while before you hear from us again. But 1st January we'll be back on your screens again. So that's until then. Have a lovely Christmas and enjoy your New Year's, and we'll see you in 2024, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. I'll echo the exactly same thing. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Thanks for tuning in. It's been the Radio 6 Podcast. I'm Chambourine, joined by GoluMolu, and we will see you in the next one. Bye bye.